All right, guys, we need to talk about Ron DeSantis launching his 2024 campaign and the failure to launch that it turned into. So, there's a couple problems here. Uh, DeSantis thought that it was a good time to get in the race, and I honestly thought just a few months ago he was going to pass, given what's going on. So, I was wrong there. He decided to try to make this his time, which I believe is a really large mistake. But we're going to kind of go through a step by step of some of the things here that DeSantis is just doing completely wrong. And keep in mind, I am biased. I am a 2-time Trump voter. I am going to be a 3-time Trump voter here in 2024. So I am already all in behind Trump. So keep that in mind when you're listening to my opinion here. So the very first mistake that we have is if we go back about 2 months ago, Ron DeSantis was polling in the low 30s and Trump was in the low 40s. DeSantis decided that that was not the time to launch his presidential bid. But what we've seen over the past 2 months, given the indictments with Trump, the Durham report came out, a couple other things peppered in there, is that gap between DeSantis and Trump is up roughly around 40 plus points. Depending on the poll you're looking at, they've got a 46-point separation between the two of them. So we passed up the opportunity where DeSantis was 8 to 10 points behind to where now he has a 40-point gap, and he has less time now to try to make that up. I believe we're about 10 months out, which 10 months seems like a really long time, but when you have a 40-point gap to try to make up, that's not working in your favor. So the other problem that we have is it seems like every time DeSantis tries to take a step in that right direction, he ends up fumbling or he ends up shooting himself in the foot. When the allegations about Trump were made with the sexual assault up there in New York. Well, first of all, sexual assault is not what they found. And because this looked political and people were on Trump's side about it, DeSantis came out and he took a shot at Trump, which, I mean, it's politics, all's fair. But when you have the majority of the party going, hey, this isn't right, and then you try to take a crack at Trump during that period, it really does not bode well for you. So, I mean, once again, these are the things going on while you're watching that gap between Trump and DeSantis start to get larger. So then we have the Twitter announcement here. So the big problem right now is that Elon Musk is making a few poor decisions, and he's leaving a sour taste with some of the people. He just hired some chick for the CEO who has strong ties with the WEF. Well, obviously conservatives are not going to be on board with that decision. So it looks really poor if you're DeSantis when the Republicans have recency bias and they're like, hey, maybe this Elon guy's not as cracked up as we all thought, which I did warn people. That is one thing that I got completely right. People were going all in behind Elon before he had even taken over at Twitter and done anything. Now, yes, overall, I think Elon has done a halfway decent job, especially compared to what was there before. But the problem is the recency bias. Elon has made a lot of poor decisions, or at least a few, very recently, so people have that in the forefront of their mind. So now DeSantis comes out, he's launching his presidential campaign on Twitter right beside Elon. That doesn't necessarily give the best optics that it would have, again, a few months ago when DeSantis should have announced. So now we move on to the actual launch, his actual video. When you are presenting yourself as the calm, collected, organized version of Trump, you're Trump without all the bad. And then you come out and your presidential launch turns into what we just witnessed. Once again, you're shooting yourself in the foot. He had technical problems, audio problems. It looked very disorganized. There was bumbling and stumbling, and it's just he's not doing anything but shooting himself in the foot. Now, overall, I do like DeSantis. There's a few things that I take issue with what he's done, but overall, DeSantis has done a really good job. And that is why this frustrates me. Because what I wanted to see is I wanted to see DeSantis mature for another 4 years and then jump on in 2028. You cannot fumble around like this and then go after Donald Trump. You just can't do it. I know some people love him and other people hate him, but regardless of your personal feelings about him, we watched Donald Trump completely dismantle candidate after candidate in 2016. He is very capable of bringing people down and taking them out of existence. Now, DeSantis isn't going to ruin his political career here. I don't think it's going to just completely knock him out of 2028. And maybe he completely comes out and surprises everyone and he pulls Trump down. But he would be the first person that's ever been able to do that. Because what you need to keep in mind here with Donald Trump and all these polling numbers, Donald Trump has a hardened support between 30 and 40% within the party. So that leaves 15 to 20 points on the high end that DeSantis can steal away and, add to his own polling. Well, if you take every other candidate out of the race and just take it down to Trump and DeSantis, he still falls short. And, I mean, we have more indictments coming down the line. Trump seems to have gotten some of that charisma back, which I'm sorry to say, guys, all you DeSantis fans, but DeSantis just does not have that level of charisma that Trump does. So, I don't know what DeSantis is thinking right now, but it's getting to a point where you have to look at this and say, if you're going to take a shot at the king, you better not miss. And DeSantis isn't just missing, he's aiming the gun straight down at his foot and pulling the trigger. I just don't understand this, guys. Given the egos of Trump and DeSantis, I don't see DeSantis bowing out gracefully to try to get a VP spot. I think we're long past that. I just don't know what he's doing. All's he had to do was sit back and wait for 2028, and the entire party would have been behind him. If I was DeSantis, if I'm giving DeSantis advice, I'm telling him, go ahead and rally behind Trump and say, I thought about running for president, but right now we need to unify, and Donald Trump is the person to do that, and I will be your candidate in 2028. And everyone would have gone absolutely wild. He would have had all of the Trump voters. He would have had all the MAGA voters who like MAGA but don't necessarily like Donald Trump's attitude. I mean, you're talking between 70 and 80% of the party would have not only then aligned behind Donald Trump, because a lot of those people, come the general, they're going to fall in line and they're just going to vote by party anyway. Because like I said, they do like MAGA. They'll hold their nose to vote for him. They just don't necessarily like the attitude that much. But in the end, they will cast that vote for Donald Trump. And then going into 2028, that same 80% you would have had to run your presidential campaign also. So like I said, guys, I don't know what DeSantis is thinking here. But if he's going to be serious about this, he really needs to get his act together, because right now he's just proving my point that he's not ready to take on this office. And Donald Trump is too strong as a candidate and has too much in-party for support for you to continuously fumble and fumble and fumble over and over again like this and think that you're going to be able to edge him out. So I can't figure out what the thought process is here. It just doesn't seem like there's anything there for him to really grasp onto. And unfortunately for him, And unfortunately for the DeSantis voters, which I'm sure a lot of you are getting pretty frustrated right now, if he does not get this together, he's just proving everyone's point that Trump is still the man. Thanks, guys.